So we did potatoes last year. One of the mistakes I made last year, I did like 2 kinds of different potatoes. This year we're doing 6 or 7 different potatoes. And you have to go and watch my video from last year. And there were mistakes in it. And the mistakes were that I put a whole potato. This year, I cut them into half or fourths. So Jan right now is putting some soil in these, you can call them plant, whatever you want to call them. You will be learning from Bob right now. Bob, teach us.
Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about seed potatoes. Now, seed potatoes, they have to be prepared in a special way for planting. First, you want to find them. You don't want to use potatoes from the grocery store. You want to go and find potatoes which have been certified disease-free, and usually that'll be the best ones to work for you.
Bob, I'll argue with you because I do use that. So tell me, why shouldn't I do that? Because many people do that.
Because they're not treated for disease. Sometimes vegetables are treated not to sprout in the store. So you really want to go out of your way and try to find them. These potatoes came from Dublin. Well, not Dublin, Ireland, but Dublin, Pennsylvania. There's an Agway store there that had a real nice variety. They sell anywhere from by the pound to 50-pound bags. A little bit of a ride, but worth it, I think. I picked up several different types of potatoes. There is Yukon Gold, standard yellow fleshed one. There's several different types of red. The red I have is called Red Pontiac. It's a good variety. I've also used Red Chieftain and a red called Norland.
So Bob, if I stop you right now, you never used to grow these things. Why? What happened and why did you change that you are growing some different potatoes now?
Experimentation. Don't let your gardening go stale. You always want to try something different. I've done the others. One new one that I've tried is this. It's called Adirondack Blue. It's a great variety. It just caught the eye. So you should always try something new. They had one called Fingerlings there that I wanted to try, but I think this is enough if I get all these in the ground.
So Bob, if I ask you a question, how does space happen? Should I put in the ground? Where should I put it?
Good question. It all depends on the ground you have. The ground I have up in Pennsylvania is very rocky, very hard to plant into. So I'm doing them in pots up there. And I'll see if I can get you a couple pictures of the pots. I did some last weekend. They're big containers, big nursery containers if you could find them. You could also do them in raised beds, things like that. If your ground is very wet or clay, you'd want to do them in containers.
But Bob, everybody asks, potatoes are the easiest things to grow, right?
Yes.
Everybody says it's easy. Yes. But everybody is scared of it.
Definitely.
So unscare us.
I push for gardening. Never be afraid to try something new. If you fail, you learn. So you really, don't be afraid to try different things. I might as well get into trying, showing how to prepare them a little bit. With the potatoes, you get a couple different varieties. One thing to look for is eyes. These are the eyes on the potato.
I'll bring the camera.
Please.
Okay, so.
Even sometimes you can't see them. These are eyes as well. These aren't as developed. These reds are beautiful. Look at they're sprouting already. Now just taking this red, usually I want to look for 2 or 3 eyes per piece. So I'm going to cut that right like that. You have a couple there, and you have several here. You have 3 to this piece. So very easy to do. Look at that, flesh is beautiful. This is the purple, the Adirondack Blue. A little harder to see the eyes on it, but this was a real treat. Look at that flesh.
Oh, wow. Look at the red.
It's purple. It's called, the skin is a little bit more blue, but I call it more purple. That's beautiful. This is because it has antioxidant properties in there, so it's very important. I don't think I have a Yukon Gold, but again, you have 1, 2, at least 2 good eyes. You have 1, 2, 3 eyes here. Now, it's another purple, but it's not a bad thing. Again, 2 to 3 eyes per piece. Now, one like this is, I believe, is a red, has many eyes on it. So you could probably get 3 pieces out
So
of that.
Bob, when we do this, as who nobody understands how potatoes happen, what are we doing?
Okay, after you cut them, prepare them, you want to let them set out. These have been out overnight. They should be a couple days, but you see how they start to callus over? The edges will start to dry a little bit. This is the Yukon Gold, same thing. It starts to dry. This is the red. You know, the red is on the outside, it's the skin. But same thing, you see how it starts to dry up. Important, because if you put them in like this, you could get fungus in there, you could get rot, all sorts of things. So it's important to let it cure. Some people will treat it, I think they use sulfur as a fungicide to protect it from fungicides. But I've never used it. As long as you let them callus over, I think it's important. After you prepare them, I take in my containers, I put about 6 inches of soil. I'll spread them out there depending on the size container. Now those big containers, I think I used 10 pieces in there. Covered it up with the mixture of compost and soil with about another 6 inches.
Bob, why compost?
Organic matter, and most important, it's going to be easier to pull those potatoes out. Now, potatoes are a little different than tomatoes or anything like that. They're a distant relative. The tomatoes, the fruit is above the ground. The potatoes, the fruit will be found underneath the ground.
Bob, if I fight you for people who don't understand.
The biggest mistake would be keeping them too wet, which with the rain we had would be hard to do. That's why it's important in the containers again. Other than that, what you want to do with that 6 inches of compost soil mix, they'll start to sprout up. Hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see some growth. When they get up about 10, 12 inches, you want to mound them again, cover them again. You're going to take soil and gently put it around it. You'll want to crush the leaf, the foliage coming up, but you want to keep covering it. Again, your potatoes form underground. Potatoes must keep out of the sun.
They should. Oh,
yes,
okay.
Because you can, once they turn green, they have solanine, I believe, is the chemical, which is slightly poisonous. It would never hurt you, but that's why you want to keep them out of the sun. You want to keep them buried.
So, Bob, when we do tomatoes, we always like this height, this height, this height.
Yes.
And we keep on talking about potatoes that way also.
Well, potatoes, again, different varieties are going to grow to different sizes and things like that. That's why I'll be interested how these, the blue ones do. I did Yukon Gold last year, and they got over to the top of the containers. The containers were about that high. They got up to over the top of the containers. Towards middle to the end of the season, you'll see that foliage start to yellow. Then you're stopping, you're mounding. You know the potatoes are starting to get ripened down there. And that's pretty much it. Very easy to do. I would say key not to pull them out too early. So that's the other reason for containers. I mean, when you pick them, you don't have to dig them out. You could just spill that container over.
So Bob, I'll argue right now, because everyone will ask that same question. You keep on telling me potatoes are easy to grow, and nobody can grow them.
Everybody can grow them.
What mistakes are we making? You tell us.
Again, maybe the soil they're putting it is too heavy. Maybe they're not planting it deep enough, and they're not covering it enough. I know people who will cover with straw. It doesn't have to be a compost soil mix. People could cover it with straw, anything like that, just to keep them down. The only problem I think with straw, the straw might break down. You'd have to increase your fertilizer. And with fertilizer, you want to do a basic 5-10-5 like you would with a garden. Manure, anything like that.
Bob, you said something which I think is very important, and you can only teach us. Everybody's like nitrogen high, phosphorus this much. Teach us.
With the 5-10-5 fertilizer, you have 5% nitrogen. The nitrogen gives you top growth, which you want some with the potatoes. The second number is phosphorus. Yes, phosphorus, which gives you your bottom growth. Root development. Important for a potato. You're trying to develop that root underground or that fruit underground. The last number is potassium. That is more for overall growth, disease prevention.
Okay, everybody, Bob is the master. And we have Bob today. And we will keep on doing it again.
Yes, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk and an opportunity to share.
So we're trying to do something very different. Because last year what we did was, first of all, we just did 2 different kind of potatoes. This year we're doing 6 different kind of potatoes. The other thing which we did this year was cut them to have the same eyes and the chits. So let me show you some of these things. Jan has already filled everything as like 4 or 5 inches. The potatoes are already cut 24 hours ago. It is dry. So what are we trying to do? We'll put one over here, one over here, so 2 over here. And we have far too many potatoes this year. You can already see there are 3 trays. So we'll figure out how to do these over here. Okay, now this will move to its own space, but we still have so many potatoes. Have a look. A lot of hard work just happened. Jan did most of the hard work. So let's come and see quite a few buckets, few gallons already. Bigger ones have like 4 potatoes, the smaller one have like 2 or 3, depending. We had far too many potatoes, so some of them were put behind where our black soil from last year, remember? And you have to go and watch that video. So I'm very thankful that you watched this. We'll see how good we do this year. Last year we were not that successful, but we're trying to learn every year that we try. All that said, thank you for watching and subscribe and keep on watching our videos.